Hi, my friends. Welcome to Deep Six, the Deep State, my daily commentary on what's going on in the world today. Now the real Trump presidency is about to start. We've had a kind of dry run for a year, and now it's really about to get going. When Trump was elected, there was such a backlash, particularly abroad, of people who were scared to death that he would totally destroy things and that he was a bull in a china shop and he didn't know what he was doing, and particularly in the area of foreign affairs. And as a result, he appointed a cabinet and an administration that included a lot of people who he didn't really want to appoint, like Tillerson, but he needed to name them because he needed to have somebody of great prestige and stature as his Secretary of State, so that everybody would believe that adults were running the show, and it would reassure other countries. And now he's finding that he's got his own sea legs. He knows what he wants to do. In a sense, his apprenticeship is over, and now he's really prepared to go out and run foreign policy and domestic policy as he sees fit. He also has, of course, shed himself of a lot of staff members who he didn't think were working out or were appropriate. And now, in a sense, he's really starting his own presidency with his own stamp on it. You could see a similar transition in Obama, where in the first 4 years, he limited his shots. He was not explicitly racial, and he tried to appeal to everyone because he knew he had to run again. Then in the second term, the real Obama came out with a racially based agenda and a radical social reorientation and massive dictatorial use of executive power. And I think that transition is one where we're looking at it also in the Trump administration. Of course, this time I like what will eventuate, and under Obama, of course, I didn't. When I worked for President Clinton, he faced a similar baptism of fire over foreign policy. His opponent, I think his opponent Bush, said his experience in foreign policy was that he'd eaten at the International House of Pancakes from time to time. And that cut deeply with him because it was basically true. He had no understanding of foreign affairs and no background in it. So he named Tony Lake as his national security advisor and Warren Christopher as his Secretary of State. Two people he barely knew, but they were the establishment liberal from the Democratic Party bench in foreign policy, and he called them off and said, okay, now you guys take over. Any Democratic president might well have appointed those same men. There was nothing Clintonian about it. And when I got there in the start of '95, I saw that he was having no control over foreign policy. Lake and Christopher were running it. And I used to chide him, tease him, sass him, and say, you're not 21 yet, so you can't run your own foreign policy. Lake and Christopher are running it for you. There's kind of a regency here. But it's okay. When you get to be 21, you'll get to take it over, and then you can run your own foreign policy. And he grumbled and grimaced and everything, but gradually we worked together on freeing him from Lake and Christopher, who did not make it into the second term, and putting Bill Clinton's stamp on foreign policy. And I think that really is what Trump is doing now. Tillerson was always counseling, don't upset the Europeans, work hand in glove with your allies, don't be too aggressive against Iran. I know you support Israel, but don't go crazy over it. Don't burn your relationships with the Arab world. And advising not a strong confrontational approach to China over economics, because so many people had financial interests in China, and the administration itself was compromised on that, and all kinds of stuff like that, where he was constantly pulling Trump's punches. One columnist wrote the other day that Trump thought he was appointing a lion, but in fact in Tillerson he appointed a Saint Bernard, outwardly threatening but ultimately cuddly and soft. And now Trump really wants a lion, and he's named one in Pompeo, and I think he'll get a lot of good service out of him. And look for us to turn sharply against the Iran sellout, the Iran nuclear agreement, sharply against China on economic policy, to call a halt to their piracy of intellectual property and their currency manipulation. Look to him to be very forceful with Russia. These new sanctions he's imposing on Russia are terrific, because these sanctions are not aimed at Russia. They're aimed at the individuals, specifically in Russia, who are involved in the various human rights and other abuses that he's sanctioning, and the meddling in U.S. politics. One guy who knows Russia well said there are 1,000 rich people in the whole country, and if you impose sanctions on them that deny them access to the international banking system, you bring Russia to its knees. And it's important for us to remember that Russia's GDP is only $1.5 trillion. Ours is $19 trillion. So it's a tiny economy, entirely dependent on oil and gas, and therefore dependent on us, because if we raise production, the price drops and Russia gets bankrupted. So I think all of these factors are now coming into the Trump presidency. I hope that part of his real Trump administration will be to get rid of Sessions and put someone in there who understands that, quite apart from the Russiagate stuff and the meddling stuff and the Mueller investigation and the need to fight it, lies the politicization of the FBI and the Justice Department, making them not independent, but literally like branches of the Democratic National Committee. There needs to be a special prosecutor who investigates this and gets to the bottom of it. Sessions obviously doesn't have the starch to do that, and Trump needs somebody who will. I hope he's going to get rid of the Veterans Administration, Shushkin, who is a holdover from Obama, who is not changing the agency, not privatizing it, not really making the changes Trump promised for veterans. So I think there are a lot of changes in store here. I think they're really good, and I think they amount really to the real Donald Trump administration emerging. Thanks a lot, and please share this with folks, because I'd like this to be broadcast all over the place. This is sponsored, by the way, by the Patriot Gold Group. One of the things that is clearly going on is that China is trying to replace the dollar with gold as an international currency. And whether they'll succeed or not, demand for gold is set to skyrocket. So it probably is a good investment and a good time to get in there. It's the Patriot Gold Group, and the phone number is appended to this video. Thanks very much.